A response to that from the Shadow Foreign Secretary, Dame Priti Patel, who I'm delighted to say joins me now. Very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. What do you make of Netanyahu saying that the leaders in London, Ottawa and Paris are offering a huge prize for the genocidal attack on Israel on October the 7th?
Well, I think, first of all, we have to look at the context of the situation. And let's be very honest, we still have 58 hostages that are still in captivity because of Hamas. I genuinely believe right now all of this could end if those hostages were released. But just on the role of Britain and the British government in particular, we should be leveraging absolutely everything, including our very strong relationship with Israel, to work in a better way, in a much better way, to support humanitarian aid getting into Gaza. Now, I think I can speak about this because I have been scrutinising the government and I've been asking them for weeks and weeks now exactly what they are doing. And I'm afraid it's just hand-wringing. There's no action from this government. And making statements with the Canadian government and the French government, means nothing in terms of the people that are suffering right now, or even ending this conflict. And I think Britain, we've always had a very strong relationship with Israel. We've also been able to speak very directly to the Israelis. And that's why I think we're missing, some big diplomatic engagement right now to help bring this to an end and actually do some good, which is helping people that need humanitarian aid and support, not just during this critical time, but actually, in the run-up to the situation that we've been in now. Well,
forgive me, but can you push for the UK government to do more to force Netanyahu to allow humanitarian aid in, and at the same time not criticise Netanyahu's comments?
You can do both. You can do both. You can.
So yesterday, obviously, over the last 24 hours, the UK government has tried to do quite a lot more in partnership with Britain and Canada. Do you as a party support that and therefore criticise Netanyahu's response, which, again, just to remind you, was suggesting London is offering a huge prize for the genocidal attack on Israel on October the 7th?
Well, look, I think, first of all, I care about what the British government does. That's really important. I think the British government could have done much more, much sooner. So it's not just pressing Israel on humanitarian aid.
So what's your view on Netanyahu's comments that suggest that London is offering a huge...
I just don't think those comments are helpful right now. It's not going to help people in Gaza. And that's really what the British government should be focused on. There is a humanitarian crisis. People are suffering. And we know why this conflict is existing. It is because of the atrocities on the 7th of October. We all never wanted to see this conflict manifest in the way in which it has done. But the reality is we need to have those hostages freed and released. I've been on this programme previously where we've seen hostages being released, and we've all thought that was a moment of hope and opportunity when it came to ending this conflict. That has not happened, and I think Britain plays a really important role because of our relationship with not just Netanyahu, but the entire Israeli government and a long-standing relationship we have with Israel. To effectively, we should have inserted ourselves much sooner at the outset. Yes, on the hostage situation, on the aid situation, but trying to find a resolution to this.
Of course, the conflict has been running since the Conservatives were in government as well, and obviously no resolution was reached during that period of time. Let's talk about the trade deal, the UKEU trade deal yesterday. Just stepping back before we get into the line items, do you acknowledge that yesterday was a sea change in tone and positivity between the two sides?
So I'm not sure about that, to be very honest, because we've had a strong relationship with the EU in the sense we had the TCA, which obviously is a trade cooperation agreement, which basically meant we had security relations in place, we've had economic and trade cooperation in place already. I think what we've seen is we've seen a sea change in the direction of travel with the EU, which is very significant to your viewers because we're going to be paying to play all over again, which I don't recall the government saying that was their direction of travel originally. And we're also going to come under the legal governance of the European Union again. So the European Court of Justice, basically, will be determining a lot of our laws and regulations in a way in which, if you recall, back in 2016, the British people said that they wanted an end to all of that. Now, there is a problem here. There is an issue, which is the government were not honest and they were not transparent with the public. And I have to say they were not in Parliament yesterday being held to account on this too, as to why they've swung in that direction without being upfront and honest that that was their original end game.
Well, clearly they very clearly campaigned on suggesting they'd reset relations with the EU. And in terms of ECJ oversight, I think it's fair to say it's only on food regulations. Is that a worthwhile trade-off to allow food to be and veterinary products to be exported more freely?
Of course it's not. It isn't, because we don't know the full details. So before everyone just sort of says this is going to be wonderful for food exports into the EU, we actually haven't seen the full details. And I have to say, having been in government previously, I was involved in some of the security negotiations at the time. And of course, different parts of the government machinery covered agriculture, food, fishing, lots of transitional arrangements. And Britain, post-Brexit, after the referendum, we had to have a transitional framework and arrangements. And we knew the TCA, you go back and have those talks and discussions. But the important principle here, and it is about principle, is ensuring that some of those red lines associated with Brexit that 70 million people voted for and sent a clear instruction to the government of the day, it was important that those red lines weren't made pink lines and watered down. And effectively, that's what we're seeing. We've got to start asking questions around the money, the governance of the court. It's not a case of saying it's OK just because it's on food. We will be brought into an arbitration process by a foreign court. We don't even know how that's going to work or operate. Will that mean more regulation and legislation in the British Parliament and all of this? Is this now the roadmap, literally, in tying us down into other domestic laws that could affect our farming industry? So these are the types of issues that we should really go in with our eyes wide open. And I don't think it's right that the government have just sort of said, we've done a deal with the EU, it's just a reset, there's nothing to see here, but it's wonderful for our country.
Well, I don't know if they're saying there's nothing to see here. They're saying there's everything to see here. And as you're acknowledging, there's some details that haven't been fully publicised yet, which might be a separate criticism. But I don't think you can say the ECJ's remit is as broad as you might be suggesting. On defence, is this welcome? Is this something that rises above the politics, that a deeper relationship, particularly at this current time, is worth it?
So we don't know. So again, there are no details. There are no details on this whatsoever. So we're hearing that this will mean that British defence firms will have access to EU procurement schemes when they come up. We don't know the thorough details of this. We don't know what that means in terms of money that we have to pay in. And I think, the starting point here is that we do have to almost go backwards to go forwards. We have to look at how this worked previously. I'm sure you'll recall the days when we were involved in EU defence procurement projects. And quite frankly, it got to the stage where we were throwing good money after bad, where schemes were overrunning and not coming to fruition on time. And it didn't actually help to keep us safe. And I think your viewers and we all know that our primacy when it comes to keeping Britain safe is NATO. It's NATO, not the EU. So we'll ask the questions. I can tell you now, we will ask the questions. We'll run the slide rule over all of this. But I think, again, rather than the government just trumpeting in a press release that this is all great, they should have been honest and published the details so that we can actually make informed commentary and choices and decisions going forward. We want what's best for Britain. Absolutely, we do. We really do. And that's why, let's not forget, when it comes to defence and security, it's the United Kingdom, through NATO, that led the way forward on increasing spending, support for Ukraine over Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine. And we're very proud of that record when it comes to our record on defence and security.
When you say you want what's best for Britain, is free trade best for Britain? And are we today in a position of better terms of trade with the world than we were a couple of months ago?
No, we are not. We are absolutely not. We're really not. And
you could argue that there might be some cost to that, but we are certainly in a more free trade position than we were a few months ago.
Are we? So if you look at the details, fundamentally, speaking about the EU deal...
No, but across the spectrum, do you support the government's moves here to, in a world where protectionism is rising...
Of course, we know that, yes.
To stand up to that and strike
We're all for free trade. Let me just be crystal clear about that. But I also heard the Prime Minister utter yesterday that apparently this deal is good for our steel sector. So that's great. But he also didn't say something else, which was effectively, were the EU putting tariffs on British steel as a negotiating chip in this particular deal. And how on earth did Keir Starmer get himself into that situation if that is the case? So I think we need to understand what actually went on during these negotiations and what has he signed us up to, because I'm really concerned that for the first time ever, he's introduced the concept of tariffs into an EU negotiation and a reset. And that is not good for any of us, not good for our country. And that is something that the Prime Minister clearly walked into during this reset.
Well, that's your assumption. Of course, as you said, we don't have any details on that. Just finally, quick question on Ukraine and the extent to which it's time to consider whether or not President Trump should be standing up much more clearly to President Putin. Do you as a party feel that he should be?
Well, look, I want everyone to stand up to Putin. He is the aggressor. Russia has illegally invaded Ukraine. My party has been crystal clear about this from day one. Obviously, there was a call that took place yesterday. We need to see what transpires from that call, but I would conclude my remarks by saying this. Any negotiation and any peace must come with Ukraine front and centre. And that is so important because we've seen over recent months too much speculation. It started in February at the Munich Security Conference. Too much speculation about negotiations which have not resulted in any peace as of yet. We're seeing this war continue. I actually want to see our country, Britain, continue to show the leadership we showed when we were in government, release the money from frozen assets, give that money to Ukraine to give Ukraine the best chance, give them the full backing of the NATO alliance that we need to see. And we must not concede to the tyrant, which is Vladimir Putin.
Dame Priti Patel, good to see you as always. Thanks so much for joining us.